So again, the topic today is the portrait session from the sales point of view. And I'm going to share with you my screen, or am I not? Why is it not there? Because I have more than one open. Let me remedy that. All right, so you should be able to see my screen right now. Let me get rid of a few things to make it where you can see it better. Does that fill your screen, or do I need to do more? I can make it bigger if you want. Does that help any, or does that not change anything?
That's good.
Or is that better, or is that too big?
Too big, maybe?
Too big? Okay, let me make it smaller. How's that?
Okay for me, I think.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, by the way, I guess before I go on, the people who are in these photographs are my family. This is my parents. They are both retired, not retired. These are my brother, his wife, and his 3 kids. That's who that is in those photographs. All right, so let's talk about what this part of the sales process is. The whole process begins with a phone call or an in-person visit or a return of an email or a web form. There's where the process begins. And then you take them through whatever process that you have. I'll tell you what mine is, but yours may differ. But we go through this process of visiting with them, finding out if we are the right tool to help them with what it is they want to do. Because just because you have the ability to press the button in front of everything does not mean you're the right tool. I mean, when's the last time you went into Home Depot or Lowe's and found only one tool in there, a multi-tool that does everything? They don't exist. And we don't exist either. Yes, we can press the button in front of everything, but you cannot be the best. You spread yourself too thin if you're trying to do everything. Besides, do you really have the marketing budget for all that? What about the time? I recommend choosing 1 or 2 things, choosing a niche, and just going after the one thing. By the way, when you focus on one thing, you become very well known for that one thing. And those people who work with you, they trust you. You build a very good, strong relationship. And so anytime they have something else that comes up, they usually ask you first. And so you aren't spending any money, any time on the marketing of those other things. I call it spin-off business. You get quite a bit of spin-off business when you focus on 1 or 2 things. So therefore, I don't have to spend any time marketing those other things, and yet I still get them from people who aren't price shopping. Like that, huh? Yeah. They don't care what your price is. They already like you. Once we get to the point of a portrait session, we've already accomplished several things. We've gotten them past that initial step of deciding for us and for them if we're the right tool for the job. And then we've done a planning session so that we know what it is that we're doing. You can read this little box that's right under here. The custom portraiture is a collaborative work between you and your clients. Therefore, a strong planning session is a prerequisite for a strong portrait session. Each step of the creative process shapes both their experience and how they will enjoy the portraits. The relationship you're building will cause you to create something that will result in more beautiful emotional work that will cause your clients to cry tears of joy when they first see it and enjoy it for years to come. As you get closer to the portrait session, you've already met with your client and discovered what they want to do. And you've determined what they want, that what they want is what you do. In other words, you've determined that you're the right tool for the job. You know what prints they're going to want to display on their wall. You know where. You know the orientation. You know the dimensions. You know what colors to match for the environment of that room that it's going to be in. You know their personalities. You know where the session is going to take place. You even know what Grandma and Aunt Susie are going to want, because you have worked everything out. You've planned. Now it's time to do your favorite part, the photography, knowing what they want as an end result. Now, real quick, I do that planning session in their home. Depending on the type of photography you do, that may not be the appropriate thing to do. If you're just doing headshot photography, you're unlikely to do this in their home. You may be unlikely to do a planning session at all. Maybe just a quick phone call going over the things they want. So the type of photography does dictate how much planning is necessary. But for a family portrait, what I specialize in, I specialize in emotional family portraits as home decor. So in that quick slogan, I've already told them that I do family portraits and they wind up on your wall. Very clean, very understandable. If they don't want that, they don't call me. In other words, I'm not the right tool for the job they're trying to accomplish. And I think that's great. If you do a good job marketing, you'll wind up with too many. So therefore, you've got to do some things that reduce the number of people. Wouldn't that be a nice problem to have? I don't think most of us experience having too many to work with. But during this entire process, no matter how much you have a negative connotation for a salesperson, you are a salesperson the whole way through. From that first email or phone call, all the way to the installation of your art on their wall. You're a salesperson. However, if you have a negative connotation of a salesperson, which most people probably do, that negative connotation probably comes from experiences that you've had. You may walk into a department store and someone walks up to you and says, "How can I help you?" And you may respond, "I'm just browsing. I'm just looking around. I don't need any help right now." Some of us really try to avoid salespeople. Maybe it's the slick used car salesperson that put you into a car you really didn't end up wanting. Whatever your experience is, we have this word that a lot of people use called salesy. And salesy is the negative connotation. But sales isn't negative. Sales is exactly the kind of thing that we creatives do naturally. We help others. We have an emotional connection to others. We want them to be in a better place they are right now. We want to help them if we can. A salesperson is just that. A salesperson finds out what it is that you want. And if it's something they can do, they help you find a way to get it. That's all a salesperson is. A salesperson is a wonderful person if they're doing it right. You're a salesperson, even through the photography session, which is what we're talking about today. You are a salesperson. So let's talk about what you need to do to prepare. Let me share my screen again. There it is. Hopefully you see on your screen, number one, prepare. This means you're going to send an email reminder about the session details a month ahead of time, if that's appropriate. It's possible that the session is closer than that. So if it's appropriate, 2 weeks ahead of time, 1 week ahead of time. You're going to call the day before to confirm the details. We need to have really good communication throughout this entire process. We know that when someone is speaking to us, they say something that's interesting, and our mind kind of drifts off into that something. So make sure that your communication is extremely good and you're repeating yourself all the time, just to make sure that they understand it. Of course, you're going to get your gear in order, clean it, especially the lenses. You're going to charge your batteries. You're going to do all kinds of stuff to prepare. I recommend that you create a checklist if you don't have one already. Many of you probably do, but create a checklist. It's going to have a dual purpose. One is just a checklist of all the things, all the steps you have to take, but also a list of inventory, a list of all the stuff that you have. Have you ever been somewhere and accidentally left something behind? I have. That wasn't fun. Sometimes when you go back, it's there. Sometimes when you go back, it isn't. But I'd recommend a checklist so there is no going back at all. Make an inventory list of all the stuff you're bringing with you. Now, you might do it in one of two ways. You may do it as a physical list of all the stuff. I've done it that way, but there's also another way I do it. I have a Pelican case that I've got several different cases, but I'm picturing one in particular. The case has every single thing that I want in it. And so if there is a blank space, it clearly tells me something's missing. So there's more than one way to do that, but I definitely recommend some way to make sure that you always arrive or leave with what you arrive with, and that you always have with you the things that you need in order to do the job. Now, I like to say dress to impress. This doesn't always apply though. This is part of your branding. What do you want to be perceived as? How do you want people to see you? If you want to show up in an undershirt and jeans and put your hair back in a ponytail, I'm picturing a guy who did this for a wedding. If you think that's appropriate, go ahead. But to me, at a wedding, I think you should dress like the guests. I don't think you should overdress the guests. I don't think you should dress like the groom. That's overkill. Dress like the guests. Find out what the guests are wearing. Same thing with the family portrait. I want to find out what it is that they're wearing. Now, if you're in an area that you're going to be on the ground, well, you may take that into consideration. But you want to look the part, and the part is defined by you. Make a plan of what you're going to do for the session, but be flexible. When you have a plan, it boosts confidence. And if there's one thing that creatives often have, it's anxiety. We have anxiety because we have not clearly defined what it is we're going to do. Once we do clearly define what it is that we're doing, our confidence is increased. And you know what? So is the confidence of our clients. So make a plan of what you're going to be doing for that session. I want you to review the client's information. Pay attention to things like the names, the ages of the kids, anything interesting, any interesting comments they made during your planning session, which I call a design consultation, but you call it whatever is appropriate for you. But during that planning session, you're going to learn several things. During a planning session, I learned the names, I learned the ages, I learned the interests, I learned the goals, the dreams, the things they're proud of in the past. I find out where on the wall the portrait is going to be displayed once we get it created. So therefore, I know what size it's supposed to be. I know whether it's a vertical or a horizontal. I know what the dimensions are. By the way, I speak in feet when I talk about wall portraits. And so there's a vocabulary point of difference between me and most other photographers who speak in inches. You do that however you want. But I know what I'm doing ahead of time because I got all those questions answered during the planning session. Sure, I can show up at 9:30 on Saturday morning and press a button and get a lot of good photographs. Sure, it could. But so could every other photographer. If you claim that you want to stand out from the crowd, then stop doing what the crowd is doing. Every photographer can show up at 9:30 on Saturday morning and create some good photographs of a family or a high school senior. Every photographer can do that. Do something that causes you to stand out from the crowd. Plan it. Get to know your client and create something specifically customized for them and the environment in which the portrait will be displayed. Now, of course, leave early for that session. Do not allow traffic to be your excuse. You know that the traffic is bad at certain times of day. You know that there could be an accident. You also know that it's a good idea to show up early. So if you were planning on showing up early and there was some traffic, chances are you'll still show up on time. The session itself. I assume you can see the little graphic I have here. The photo session itself is one piece of the entire creative process. One piece. It's an extremely important piece. That doesn't mean the others aren't extremely important, though. But it's the one that we got into this business for. We love creating the photographs. This, for many of us, maybe most, maybe almost all, is the favorite part of the entire process. It's still one of my favorite parts of this process, but now the entire thing is my favorite. I like every single piece of this, which is surprising to me because I didn't even know all these pieces existed when I started. Especially the business side. Yeah, I knew on surface level, I knew it was important, but when I got my degree in photography, they never talked about the business side. So I figured it was, that part takes care of itself. You don't need to worry about it. It's not that big a deal. Boy, was I wrong. The reason they didn't teach that is because none of them had been photographers. Yeah, I got a 4-year degree in photography. You'd think that the teachers would know a little something about being a photographer. Not one of them had ever been a photographer. Now, if your definition of a photographer is someone who presses a button and creates a photographs, okay, yeah, they are photographers. But I'm talking about career photographers, someone who's relied on the income of photography. If you're going to be training people to do that, don't you think you should have a little bit of experience in doing that? Well, I do. So in this process, we've already done that initial contact. We have followed up before the planning session. We've prepared for the session itself. And now we are about to do the photo session. I've got a couple of things about mindset that I want to go over. We've talked about mindset quite a bit already. Here's 3 more. This is your art, your business. You get to determine what you feel is best. Now, you may disagree with me, and that's fine. But I feel that as a professional, your issues, your problems, your concerns, your emotions are now irrelevant. Because during the session, this is not about you. This is about them. Let everything that you are worried about during the day or worried about in life, just let it fall away. And for a lot of us, that just happens naturally. But then again, you've been around people who are at work who are pretty angry at times. We can't be that. By the way, for those who I come across on rare occasion, who have difficulty separating their problems from their client's experience of this session, I think they need to reevaluate, focus. And if they can't figure out a way to separate their emotions, their personal experiences, the bad things that are bothering them right now, if they can't figure out a way, then maybe this isn't the right career choice. This has to be about them. You're on stage. You're in the spotlight. Everything must seem amazing, almost perfect, in order to give your clients the experience they deserve. Now, again, I preface that at the beginning. This is my opinion. You do not have to agree with it. I want you, though, to have an opinion on this and stick with it as one of your policies. I want you to build the base for an exciting, comfortable experience. Greet them with enthusiasm. They want and deserve to see your passion for what you do at its peak. What happens in the first few minutes is going to shape much of the photography session. But of course, carry that same level of energy throughout the entire session. Your tone of voice, your enthusiasm, your body language, and your genuine interest in your subjects is just as important as the words you use. Again, you're going to arrive early, but you're going to arrive early with an attitude full of happiness, professionalism, and confidence. I like to compliment them throughout the session. When they arrive on time, I want to show appreciation for that. Somebody made that happen. With family portraits, it's probably mom. Same thing with the clothes. So compliment them on their outfits, compliment them on their hair. Again, someone invests a lot of time in the preparation. You've invested a lot of time in the preparation of this session too, but so have they. Compliment them on it. Recognize it. Most of my clients are very easy to work with, and I appreciate that. So I compliment them on it. Now, one of the cool things on this, by the way, this is all sales. This is all helping the client get what they want. They want a good, fun, positive experience. These are things to help them get that. They also want beautiful photographs as an end result. So comment as you go through the portrait session. When you create that image that in your mind was the one that's going to go above their fireplace, say so. Create that image and say, oh, this is it. This is the perfect one. This is the one that's going to be above your fireplace. Oh my gosh, you are going to love seeing this. By the way, you may be thinking, are you going to show it to them at that point? Usually not. Nope. I want the excitement to be there. I don't want them to have already seen it. So therefore, I don't do a whole lot of turning the camera around. I will on occasion, especially if there's something that someone is tilted funny, but they feel like they're straight. And so I can show it to them so they can see what it is that I mean. I might do that then. And oftentimes with the kids, they'll want to see it, and I'll often show the kids. But I'm usually not showing those because I want their excitement to be high during the portrait selection consultation. And if I've showed the images in any way ahead of time, then that reduces that level of excitement. And no, I don't do sneak peeks on Facebook or Instagram, or no, I don't do sneak peeks. I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong if you do. I'm just saying it takes, in my opinion, only, it takes away from the excitement level of the portrait selection consultation. I want them to see those images for the very first time. When I used to photograph weddings, we had an option for an initial showing, a premiere that we did at the Dominion Country Club. We got a room. We had 15 of them and 13 of their closest friends, and we would project on the wall. This would be the very first time they saw their images while they were having their filet mignons. I don't know if you guys are into meat, but filet mignon it's really good. But that is where they get to see. That's where their images are revealed. Their excitement level is extreme, and I love it. But if I did sneak peeks, I reduce it. I spread it out over time. I want it to build and be right there in the moment. I want to feel their excitement. I created these images for them. I'm excited about this. I want to feel this with them, not without them. So I don't show them. Again, your call. Whatever is best for your business practice, you do that. Make sure you've thought it through. Don't just go with something because somebody said so. Think it through. Make it yours. When I create that image that we talked about that grandma was going to like, I say, this is the one that grandma's going to want. She's going to love this. Grandma always has to have a photograph. You guys know how that works. I may say, this is the one that's going to look amazing on your wall, but I'm going to comment as we're going through the session. I'm complimenting and I'm commenting on the future. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why I'm doing that kind of thing. We talked about creating these images during the planning session. So therefore, when I have accomplished, I'm checking it off, but I'm telling them that. They want to know, they want to have confidence that we are getting the things that we planned to do. It's like me saying that I'm going to do something and then doing that. When you hear someone say they're going to do something, I bet you there's times that that's crossed your mind that I hear them saying that, but I don't actually believe they're going to do it. And there's probably been times when you've said you're going to do something, and for whatever reason, maybe a very good one, but you weren't able to get it done. I believe you need to give yourself lots of opportunities to say something and then get it done. Purposefully seek out those types of opportunities where you're saying, I'm going to, and then you do it, even if it's something you're going to do anyway, because it builds trust. These kind of comments are showing that you know what you're doing. They show that you understand what it is that they want. And it reinforces your goal of selling wall portraits. Again, not everybody wants to sell wall portraits. Not every session is appropriate for that kind of thing. But with my family portraits, almost everybody bought wall portraits. Almost everybody. Did everybody? Nope, absolutely not. But a vast majority did. And although I don't seek out photography business anymore, I still get it because of jobs that I've done in the past, because of relationships I've built over time. I don't seek any more business though. Out of the last 3 years that I did, so that was 2017, 2018, 2019, out of those 3 years, my average sale in a family portrait session was $3,800. And it's only because I was selling wall portraits. I was finishing the job. I did not want to leave them with more work to do. Like that example of the house earlier, the roofer. Yes, people know how to use a hammer. And just because people know what to do with a JPEG image does not mean the job's done. Besides, I'm the artist. What artist, let's say, pick any other artist, let's say a painter on canvas. What painter would paint it partially and say, you know what? They know how to paint. I'll even throw in some paint brushes and the leftover paint that I haven't used and sell them this unfinished portrait painting. What artist would ever think of doing something like that? They don't. And that's why I don't think I should. But you do what you think is right. I want you to observe them throughout this session. Watch, listen. You're going to learn a lot. You learned a lot during the planning session. Listen to inflections. Pay attention to body language. Notice who's in charge and when. Because there's times when it changes. And pretty much everybody is in charge at some point of a certain subject at a certain time. Who's silly? Who's loving? Do they look at each other? In what ways? Are they smiling or laughing even when you're not asking them to? Notice how they touch. All of this empowers you to create images and experiences that reflect them, your client. Clients do not appreciate extra time. They may say they do. In the average photographer's mind, there is a weird little voice in your head that tells you that if you spend more time photographing them, walking around, wandering to the park that you're in and finding some other good backgrounds, that they're going to appreciate that. They're going to like it. They may buy more because they want to say thank you that you spent more time with them. There's times when it's appropriate to spend more time. Absolutely. But if you're just wandering around some pretty place because you failed to plan, that's not appropriate. That's not professional. There are times when wandering is part of the plan, though. If it's part of the plan, then go for it. Do it. For the most part, though, that little voice in your head that says, let's just walk around a little bit more. Let's spend more time. Let's, instead of an hour session, do a 3-hour session. That little voice inside your head is kind of like he's an idiot. You've planned what you're going to do. Get in there, do that plan, show them every step of the way. We got this, we got that. And once you've gotten the things that you want, tell them, we did it. This is the exit. Tell them they did a great job. Guide them on what happens next. Now, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment because I want to show you this video. I think. Okay. I want to show you this video, but for some reason, I can't highlight just that part. There we go. So I'm going to stop that share for just a moment and then enter that into, I deleted it a little while ago. That's why it's not here. This is a short video. A story behind the image of Steve Jobs is what it's called. This was an image that was created in October of 2017. Share my screen, share with sound, an optimized video clip. This is Albert Watson, and as it's written here, he's renowned for his portraits of acclaimed personalities, and he is always in pursuit of that special, iconic shot.
I was involved in this shoot for a magazine, photographing the most powerful people in America. And one of the people we had to photograph was Steve Jobs. We had him for an hour. 9 o'clock he was due to turn up, and he turned up at 1 minute to 9. And just before he arrived, the PR person came up to me and said, I just want to let you know Steve hates photographers. And I took a chance on something. I said, Mr. Jobs, I have some good news for you. I said, I believe I have you for an hour. He said, you do? I said, I think I can get this done in half an hour. And he just looked at me like I'd given him a Christmas present or something. He said, oh my God, that would be great. He said, I've got so much to do today. And I thought, well, why don't I just approach it like it's a passport picture, so that it had a little bit of fall off, shoot it against white, give it a little bit of graphics, but to keep it very, very simple. I said, I'd like you to just slightly lean forward towards the camera. I would like you to imagine that you're across a table from 4 or 5 people who don't agree with you, but you know you're right. And he said, easy for me, I do that every day. And then he just leaned forward and he kind of looked. And he just put his thumb here, and he gave a little smile, but it wasn't a smile. He was like, don't question what I'm doing. He was actually out of there in about 20 minutes. So I did a cut from the knee up and then a close-up, that close-up shot. When he was leaving, the Polaroid was there, and he said, can I have this? I said, sure. And he said, that's maybe the best picture ever taken of me. So I thought at this point he was just being very polite. But then I got a call years later from California saying, I need that photograph you did of Steve. Do you still have it? I said, of course I have it. We sent it out there. And that night I actually went to Lincoln Center and my phone beeped. And then up on my phone came, he had died that afternoon. That photo was there on the website. So he did like it in the end.
So how do you feel about that? Anybody have any comments on that?
Well,
Did you like hearing what he had to say about photographing Steve Jobs?
yes, I like the way he got him to pose without posing.
Yeah. It's fun to hear other people's points of view. So, excuse me. Steve, thumbs up, thanks. I want to talk about the exit. Once you have photographed them, there needs to be a good, strong exit, not just it winds away to nothing. It needs to be clear. I need to state that I have accomplished what it is that we set out to accomplish. Now, you're going to say that in your own way. I don't say it like that. I'm going to tell them we did it. We got exactly what we want. I do fist pumps in the air. I do all that kind of stuff because I'm excited about it. And I bet you are too. And I'm doing that all the way throughout. When I get the photograph that I want, I'm excited about it. I show it. Yes. Fist pump. When I get the photograph I want, pretty much every time. That's just me. You're going to do it in your way, but somehow acknowledge we accomplished, and it's we. It isn't just you. If you remember, photography is a collaborative work between you and your subject. So therefore, we accomplished this, not I. I tell them that they did a great job because they did. We worked well together. I'm going to say things like that. I want to encourage them. I want to make sure that I believe this went well, and that, you know, as a professional, and that's how they see me. That I think this went well. That they did really good. That I may even say something that implies that they're better than everybody else. Whether that's true or not is not. I mean, all right. Let me give an example of what that is. Earlier today, I was photographing the San Antonio Women's Chamber of Commerce annual golf tournament. And I'd photograph them, and usually it was right on the first time. But I would check to make sure. I want to make sure everyone's eyes are open, that the lighting is right. Okay, most of the time it was right on the first time. But I didn't tell them that. What I told them was, I took the photograph and said, oh, that was great. Let me zoom in and make sure everybody's eyes are open. Oh, they are. You got it in one. You guys are amazing. That implies that they're the only one without me saying that they're the only one, which wouldn't be true. But it implies that there's something special, because they are. There could be a whole bunch of something specials at that event or at whatever session you're doing. That's great. So I want to acknowledge it. You guys did. You guys are pros. You guys are amazing. Do you do this for a living? You must have done this before. All those kind of things. Yep, I say that. I want them to feel good. I want them to, they already see me as the professional, as the expert. I want them to know that the expert thinks they are amazing. So I tell them. And then I guide them on what happens next. So once I said, we've got everything we need, we are done. You guys are freaking amazing. I am so happy to have you guys as clients. We'll look forward to the next time we get to do this. Yeah, that's selling, but it's the truth. And I think they agree with me every time. I guide them on what's happening next. I don't want to leave them in limbo. It's not just a goodbye. There's more work to be done. There's a lot more work for a photographer to be done. You guys, if you have your handout, are seeing that. In fact, let me just go back to sharing that screen with you. Right there. There's a lot more stuff still to go. You're not even halfway done yet. Maybe you're right on the edge of being halfway done, but there's a lot of more work still to be done. You've got to process those images. You've got to have them choose the ones that they want and fine tune those and then send them to the printer. That's one little small step in the entire creative process. Yet there's a lot of photographers that base their price on just that one little small step. You probably know my opinion on that. Photographers, most of us, need to raise our prices so that you can earn a living. You deserve to earn a living. You've got several more steps happening. And so I'm telling them what's happening next. I'm going to go back to my computer. I'm going to upload those and I'm going to cull the images. Those with your eyes closed. I'm not going to waste your time showing you those. Those where you're looking off to the side or it's a half blink where you look kind of drunk. I'm not going to waste your time with that kind of stuff. I'm going to edit these down to just the best. And I've already told them that during the phone call, during the planning session, and then again at the end of the portrait session. They don't get to see every single image I create. It takes too much time. I want them to see the best of the best. I want to hear comments like when he showed us the photographs, I couldn't believe that every single one of them was great. Everyone. I mean, you know, usually when you go through someone's photographs, so for a photographer's photographs, there's usually a few that aren't so good, that are kind of average, that aren't that. Nope. When you look at the photographs that I may have created 70, 80 images of a family, but I'm showing 25 to 40. I'm not showing all of them. I'm showing the cream of the crop. The ones that I know are perfect for what we talked about during the planning session. Those are the ones I'm showing. So I'm telling them I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to upload those photographs. I'm going to do some light retouching to them. I'm not going to go crazy with it because I don't do artwork on every single image. It's time consuming. I'll usually invest between 30 minutes and 3 hours on the fine tuning. So I'm not going to fine tune every single image. It just takes too long. You might have a different way of doing it. If it's appropriate for you to fine tune, to do the artwork, I call it retouching. I call it artwork. If you feel for your process, it's appropriate to do that, then do that. That's appropriate for you. But for me, I just do lightweight stuff. I'm changing, if it's a little bit off on exposure, if it's a lot off, I'm not going to show it. But if it's a little, and that almost never happens, but if it's a little bit off, I'm fixing it. If the color bounces off a little bit, fixing it. That's easy to do. I'm creating in RAW, so it's easy to do. And I'm doing that part in Lightroom. That part is totally in Lightroom. Now, if we're going to be adding something in, like just yesterday, I added in a puppy, a dog. They wanted a dog in their photograph. And so I got a photograph of the dog and I added it into their photograph, and I'm going to be showing that to them either later today or tomorrow. Yep. It's a long day, but it's coming. Show them that image to approve it before it gets printed. But there's just a lot of steps, and whatever the appropriate things that you're going to be doing, share it at a surface level. Not all the things, you know, we don't need to go into details. But we tell them my next step, I'm going back to the office. I'm going to process these images and prepare them for your portrait selection consultation, which is already planned. We planned that during the planning session, but I will say the date again, which is 2 days from now at 5 o'clock, whatever is appropriate. So I'm telling them when that's going to happen. And so they know what to expect. If there's anything I need for them to do, I'm telling them what it is that they need to be doing in the meantime. There's generally not a whole lot for them to do. At the planning session, getting ready for the session, there's a lot of things for them to do. Getting the clothes together, maybe haircuts, maybe hair coloring, maybe nails. There's all kinds of prep that they have to do. But generally speaking, between the session itself and the portrait selection consultation, There's not really anything for them to do. On occasion, there could be. And if there is, I tell them. And then once I'm done going through all those the steps, and I remind them what's going to happen. We're going to look through these images and choose the ones you want to own. I don't say purchase or buy, or at this point, I don't say invest, although I do use the word invest. But I say own. We're going to go through the images and choose which ones you want to own or give away as gifts. At the end of the portrait selection consultation, I'll add that up, give you the total. I'll have a credit card reader with me so that I can take care of it at that point. And then I will go back to my office. I will fine tune those images, and then I'll send them to the lab. When I get them back from the lab, I'll make sure it goes through. The lab has quality control and I have quality control. The lab is looking at different things that I'm looking at. A lot of times when I find a mistake, it was my mistake, not the lab's. Color balance was off. Maybe I forgot to do something. Maybe they asked for something and I just totally forgot. It was in my notes. Somehow I missed it. Yeah, a lot of time, most of the time, if there's a problem, it's me. So there's quality control. I get to check to make sure. Now, I know some photographers do drop shipping, and that is appropriate in some situations. But for me, for portrait work, for something that's going to go on someone's wall, never. It comes back to me for approval first, but then there's other things I'm doing to it. And we'll be talking about that in future episodes of Portrait Profit Show. So I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I'm telling them just lightly, surface level, what's happening next. Once we get those portraits back, I'm going to sign them and package them, and then I'm going to call you to let you know that they're done, and we can schedule a time for me to come to your house for delivery and installation. And delivery and installation, depending on the number of photographs, and I'm going to tell them because we've already planned how many photographs they're going to put on their wall. It usually takes me around an hour to install a photograph. Could take quite a bit less. It depends on what I have to do. Sometimes I'm taking another print off the wall. I'm patching it, just doing. So there's several different things that could happen that could cause it to go long. But again, this is just details for you guys. For them, it's all surface level. What's happening next? I want them confident in the process. I don't want them questioning the process. Now, if they have a question, I welcome that. But I don't want them to wonder what's going to happen next. What's he doing? I wonder how long this part takes. I tell them it's part of my process, and I think it should be part of yours. So the exit, tell them, guide them. What's happening next? What am I doing? What are they supposed to do? When will they hear from you? How long do things take? Share the process so they have a good understanding. In my opinion, this is essential for a positive experience for both the photographer and the client. And then I follow that up with an email message, but I also recommend maybe even writing a handwritten note after the session, something that gets to them pretty quickly. An email is fine. It's what everybody can do, but hardly anybody does follow up. So therefore you're already standing out from the crowd. But if you want to one up that, a handwritten note, commenting on how things went, maybe bring up something that was said that was funny, that you are recalling and enjoying the recollection in your mind. Share that with them when it's fresh on your mind. When I say fresh, I mean you have your thank you cards with you in your car. You go to a place where they're not going to see you. You get off on the side of the road on a parking lot or something, and you write that thank you letter, address it, stamp it, and put it in the next mailbox you find. That's kind of cool. It'll get to them tomorrow. You're going to have fun going through those beautiful images that you have planned. I have a homework assignment for you. You guys ready for this? You like homework, right? 4 things. Number 1, describe your ideal portrait session from your client's point of view. Describe your ideal portrait session from your client's point of view. Make it clear what will happen and why you're doing it, and why you're in the way you're doing it is, and explain why that's beneficial to them. When you do it from your client's point of view, it's going to expose gaps in how you're actually doing it versus the ideal version. And when you expose those gaps, you can fix it. Any problem can be solved as long as you own it. You may think, well, that's not me. That's not my job title. That's not what I want. If you or someone else is responsible for that, if you own a problem, you give yourself power to fix it. So seek the problems, welcome them. If someone tells you that there's something about you that could be improved, they may be wrong, they may be right. Let them say it. Hear them. It might not feel good to hear it, but there's probably some, at least small part of it, that could be beneficial. You could own that and fix it and make it better where the problem doesn't even exist anymore. But if you refuse all information, I've got enough. I know somebody who says, I don't want to meet new people. I have enough friends. Okay, to each his own. But in my opinion, you perfect you and your process when you seek the problems, because you give yourself power to fix them. I want to know what I'm doing wrong. Even if I don't agree, I want to know. I don't want an echo chamber where everybody's just is saying yes and loves me. I love that. Of course, I want to hear that. But I also want to hear those who see it differently, because that's where I can improve. Number 2, write out the steps for your portrait session. Now, this is from your point of view. Write out the steps from the prep to the greeting, the session itself, the exit, and the follow-up email or handwritten note, whichever you do. Make sure you're including why when you're creating this list, these steps that you're going to do. Include why you're doing the things you choose to do. At some point, you might forget and start cutting corners. We don't want that to happen. So include why. What are the benefits to you, and what are the benefits to your clients? Make sure you're thinking about this when you're doing step 2, writing out the steps for your portrait session. Makes you consistent when you do this. Number 3, anticipate questions that they may ask before, during, and immediately following a session. Write them down. They ask questions. If you photographed a single session, you know they ask questions. Write down any question you can think of while they're not around. Just you. Write those down and then come up with intelligent responses so that you're prepared, so that you're not caught off guard, so that your confidence soars. Number 4, you heard me say this before, create a checklist of the items you need to do your work, the equipment, and anything else you might need. Use this every time you prep and before you leave the session to make sure you don't accidentally leave something behind. Those are the 4 homework assignments or action steps. I want to thank you for spending time with me. I hope you learned a lot from this episode of Portrait Prophets. The Topic today was the portrait session from the sales point of view. I hope that you got something from that that you might not have considered before, might not have known before, may not have crossed your mind before. Before we go, I would like for Javi to once again share, or Amanda, to once again share the 50% off special you guys have. I want to make sure everybody knows about it, because this everything you guys do is great. So this is one more example of something great that you have to share with us.
Yeah, so just one more time for everybody. We're doing 50% off of a monitor calibration. Again, that's just ensuring that your colors that you're seeing on your computer look like our colors coming out of the printers. Everything from brightness to colors. So making sure your prints aren't coming out too dark, too bright, making sure your reds look red and your skin tones look like they're supposed to. One of the most essential parts to a successful print. So again, email me. That's javi@digitalprolab.com, and just let me know that you're interested. A normal monitor calibration usually runs at $99.95. We're offering that for $49.95 if you shoot me an email. And so again, that's just to make sure that you're on your way to a successful print. And then not to try to completely recap what Lucy had mentioned, but they are offering, if you go to the link in the chat, or if you go to www.camerax.com and go to their classes section, they are putting on a mock wedding workshop. That is the Marie Antoinette workshop. They've got several different packages. So whether you want to be there for the entire thing, business to the actual shoot, or if you want to just be there to shoot it, to add it to your portfolio, they're offering 10% off of any of those packages if you use the code all caps DPL and then the number 10 rather. So that's DPL 10, and that'll get you 10% off of that workshop. I think that's a great opportunity for anybody who is interested in getting into weddings. A lot of times for people, the only way to get experience shooting a wedding is to second shoot a wedding, and that requires you knowing somebody who is good enough to shadow. Or you just kind of roll the dice and say, yeah, I'll just try shooting somebody's wedding, and you cross your fingers that you don't ruin someone's special day. And so that's a really great opportunity to get some experience and learn from from professionals who do this for a living. Or if you're somebody who, you've done a few weddings, but you haven't done any super high budget weddings. Lucy mentioned that this wedding would be valued at $100,000 if it were, a real world wedding. And so this might be a great opportunity for you to, add something to your portfolio that's going to be a little bit more exciting, and show your clients that, hey, I can handle, bigger opportunities. And so again, that's camerax.com. You can go to their classes section and enter in that code DPL10.
Thank you, Javi. And once again, thank you for representing Digital Pro Lab. I think we all know, and I can't say it enough, saying thank you to you guys for doing such a great job in helping out the photography community. And thanks for including others like Camera Exchange, like you just did. So thank you guys. You rock. Are there any questions about what we presented today? I didn't see any in the chat. But if you have some, by the way, if you're on Facebook, please comment in that section. It may be a little while before I get to it, but I'd feel free to comment there, or send me an email, jim@landersphotoschool.com. Email jim@landersphotoschool.com. So I don't see any hands raised. Make sure you have on your calendars that the weekly show next week is at noon. Again, it's at noon every Monday, except for the second Monday of every month. So I hope to see you then. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, this is Jim Landers bringing you the weekly Portrait Profits Show, giving you evolving content awareness and even fun to the business side of photography. We provide helpful information, step-by-step processes, how-to articles, and action steps that will help you with the struggles you deal with now, so that you are consistently realigned to the path that leads you to the success that you deserve. Thank you, guys.